Mm.
Good morning, and this is Tracy, and welcome to my reading corner. Today, and Grace, you may want to mute while I do the story, and then afterwards we'll unmute and we'll talk about the story. Okay? So I'm going to mute you now, I think, or you may have to mute yourself because it's not letting me do that.
Okay.
You have to mute yourself. Mute your mic. There you go. Good, good. Okay. So we're going to read a story by Peggy Parish called Amelia Bedelia, or one of the stories. And Amelia Bedelia is a housekeeper, and she's very, very literal. When somebody says something, she takes it very literally in the English. And you know, English, sometimes words have many different meanings to them, depending upon how they're used. So this should be a lot of fun. I'm going to first of all share my screen and a little bit about who Peggy Parish is. And this is a picture of her with her nephew. It's interesting. Somebody asked if this is a picture of me with my son, and I'm thinking, wow, no, not really, but that's cool. This is Peggy Parish, and she's passed since then, and her nephew Herman actually took over with the writing of Amelia Bedelia books because they were so popular, and kids loved reading them. And then all of a sudden they stopped with her death, and he started to pick them back up again and is now writing them. She died in November of 1988. But because of all the fan mail, in 1995, Herman Parish decided he'd continue writing the stories. So the stories are still being written and are there for enjoyment. The story that we're going to read now is actually a story that you can get online, and I will share that link later. What's interesting, though, is I actually, if you look at this, it says I rented the book, and I have to return it back to this online library in 13 days. That's because I actually rented it out about a week or so ago when I thought I was going to do this and didn't have the power to do it. So you can get these books, and after we finish reading this, I will return it to its place, and you'll be able to see the place where I got it and where there are other Amelia Bedelia books that can be borrowed, along with many other books. Amelia Bedelia by Peggy Parish. And I'm going to have to put my glasses on so I can see this. Oh, Amelia Bedelia, your first day of work. And I can't be here, but I made a list for you. You do just what the list says, said Mrs. Rogers. Mrs. Rogers got into the car with Mr. Rogers. They drove away. My, what nice folks. I'm going to like working here, said Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia went inside. Such a grand house. These must be rich folks. But I must get to work. Here I stand just looking, and me with a whole list of things to do. Amelia Bedelia stood there a minute longer. I think I'll make a surprise for them. I'll make a lemon meringue pie. I do make good pies. I love lemon meringue pie. So Amelia Bedelia went into the kitchen. She put a little of this and a pinch of that into a bowl. She mixed and she rolled. Soon her pie was ready to go into the oven. There, said Amelia Bedelia, that's done. Now, Let's see what this list says. Amelia Bedelia read, change the towels in the green bathroom. Change the towels in the green bathroom. Amelia Bedelia found the green bathroom. The towels are very nice. Why change them, she thought. Then Amelia Bedelia remembered what Mrs. Rogers had said. She must do just what the list told her. Well, all right, said Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia got some scissors. She snipped a little here and a little there, and she changed those towels. There, said Amelia Bedelia. She looked at her list again. Dust the furniture. Did you ever hear tell of such a silly thing? At my house, we undust the furniture, but to each his own. Amelia Bedelia took one last look at the bathroom. She saw a big box with the words dusting powder on it. Well, look at that, a special powder to dust with, exclaimed Amelia Bedelia. So Amelia Bedelia dusted the furniture. That should be dusty enough. My, how nice it smells. Draw the drapes when the sun comes in, read Amelia Bedelia. She looked up. The sun was coming in. Amelia Bedelia looked at the list again. Draw the drapes. That's what it says. I'm not much of a hand at drawing, but I'll try. So Amelia Bedelia sat right down, and she drew those drapes. Amelia Bedelia marked off about the drapes. Now what? Put the lights out when you finish in the living room. Amelia Bedelia thought about this a minute. She switched the lights off. She carefully unscrewed each bulb, and Amelia Bedelia put the lights out. In other words, she hung them outside on a laundry line. So those things need to be aired out too, just like pillows and babies. Oh, I do have a lot to learn. My pie, exclaimed Amelia Bedelia. She hurried to the kitchen. Just right, she said. She took the pie out of the oven and put it on the table to cool. Then she looked at the list. Measure 2 cups of rice. That's next, said Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia found 2 cups of rice, 2 cups. She filled them with rice. And Amelia Bedelia measured that rice. Amelia Bedelia laughed. Those folks do want me to do funny things. And then she poured the rice back into the container. The meat market will deliver a steak and a chicken. Please trim the fat before you put the steak in the icebox, and please dress the chicken. When the meat arrived, Amelia Bedelia opened the bag. She looked at the steak for a long time. Yes, she said, that will do nicely. Amelia Bedelia got some lace and bits of ribbon, and Amelia Bedelia trimmed the fat before she put it into the icebox. Now I must dress the chicken. I wonder if she wants a he chicken or a she chicken, said Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia went right to work. Soon the chicken was finished. Notice she's dressing the chicken. Amelia Bedelia, why are all your light bulbs outside? Asked Mr. Rogers. The list just said to put the lights out, said Amelia Bedelia. It didn't say to bring them back in. Oh, I do hope they didn't get aired out too long. Amelia Bedelia, the sun will fade the furniture. I asked you to draw the drapes, said Mrs. Rogers. I did. See? Said Amelia Bedelia, and she held up her picture. You know what drawing the drapes means is to close them. She thought it meant to draw them, or the picture of them. Then Mrs. Rogers saw the furniture. The furniture, she cried. Did I dust it well enough? Asked Amelia Bedelia. That's such a nice dusting powder. Mr. Rogers went to wash his hands. I say, he called, these are very unusual towels. Mrs. Rogers dashed into the bathroom. Oh, my best towels, she said. Didn't I change them enough? Asked Amelia Bedelia. I put it back in the container. Didn't I change it enough? I put it back in the container, but I remember it measured 4.5 inches, said Amelia Bedelia. I trimmed the fat just like you said. It does look nice. Mrs. Rogers rushed into the icebox. She opened it. Lace? Ribbons? Oh dear, said Mrs. Rogers. Yes, and I found a nice box to put him in, said Amelia Bedelia. Box, exclaimed Mrs. Rogers. Mrs. Rogers hurried over to the box, and she lifted the lid. There lay the chicken, and he was just as dressed as he could be. Mrs. Rogers was very angry. She was very angry. She opened her mouth. Mrs. Rogers meant to tell Amelia Bedelia she was fired. But before she could get the words out, Mr. Rogers put something in her mouth. It was so good. Mrs. Rogers forgot all about being angry. So right then and there, Mr. and Mrs. Rogers decided that Amelia Bedelia must stay. And so she did. Mrs. Rogers learned to say undress, undust the furniture, unlight the lights, close the drapes, and things like that. Mr. Rogers didn't care if Amelia Bedelia trimmed all of his steaks with lace. All he cared about was having her there to make lemon meringue pie. Yeah. So I'm going to unmute you, and we're going to sort of flip back in the book again and just look at some of the things that Amelia did and what it really meant in English. Okay, Grace? Okay. All right. So you can unmute now, and we'll look at changing the towels in the bathroom. What did Mrs. Rogers mean when she asked Amelia to change the towels? Do you know?
No.
Okay. So in America, when we're going to do the laundry, we go in, we get the towels from the bathroom and put them in the wash, and we put fresh towels up in the bathroom. And that's changing the laundry. It's taking the towels that are in there and putting new towels into the bathroom. Changing the laundry, okay?
Yeah.
Dusting the furniture. Do you know what that means, to dust the furniture?
Well, for me, I think it's like cleaning, most especially the living room.
Right. With a towel or something, cleaning off the dust, making it look nice, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what she ended up using? Were you able to follow that she used dusting powder?
She used the powder.
Yeah, like the powder that we use in the bathroom, you know, the baby powder. So she ended up, or talcum powder, she ended up putting dust all over the place. So she dusted it. Draw the drapes. To draw the drapes means to close them.
Okay.
So she was being asked to close the drapes. But she, of course, interpreted it as to draw a picture.
Draw the picture.
To draw a picture. Put the lights out when you finish in the living room. What was Mrs. Rogers trying to?
Off the light?
Just turn the lights off. Yeah, turn them off. But she thought that meant to take them outside and hang them like you do laundry. And notice, and notice that the list did not say, as she said, to bring the lights back in. So they were still hanging out there, in the laundry, on the laundry line when they arrived back. But she thought it would take them out. Measure 2 cups of rice. When you're cooking, you have, your cup, your half cup and all that, and you pour the rice and you measure them.
We measure.
Right. What did she end up doing? She
used a tape to measure.
Yeah, she got 2 cups
of rice,
poured rice in them, put one on top of the other, and then measured it to see how tall it was. Poured the rice back in to the box and she remembered how much it was, so she could tell them. Okay, so she's measuring it. Please trim the fat before you put the steak in the icebox. You liked that one, huh?
Yeah, I love this one actually.
It must have been quite a shock to open up your refrigerator and see a steak there with little lace and ribbons all around it, and a chicken all dressed up in his attire. Excuse me. What does it mean to trim the fat off of the steak? If somebody asked you to trim the fat off, what does that mean?
That you take out the fats from.
Yeah. So she's going to cut it off. She's going to cut the fat off of the steak. The extra fat. Mm-hmm. And what does it mean to dress the chicken?
It means to season it with some spice before roasting or cooking or frying.
Yeah. And cleaning it, right? Cleaning out the inside of it and making sure that it's all patted dry and ready for cooking. Yeah, to dress it. And of course, then they came back and they realized, oh my goodness, this is not going to work out. They changed their mind. Why did they change their mind? I mean, here she went, she cut the towels, she's put powder all over the furniture, she's making cutesy out of my steaks and my chicken. Why would they keep her for a housekeeper? Why did they choose to keep her?
Because everything she did was contrary to what they said.
Yeah, well, not really contrary. She did very literally, in other words, by the words, she did what they'd asked, but she didn't interpret them according to, what the English meant. So that would cause a great deal of confusion. And Mrs. Rogers was going to fire her, but they didn't fire her. Why not?
Yeah, they didn't fire her because she obeyed. She did everything they asked her to do, but however, she didn't interpret what they asked her to do, but she did it with all her heart and with all her mind.
And she did something else too before she did the list. She made a lemon meringue pie, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
So it says here that when Mr. Rogers gave her, Mrs. Rogers, a bite of the lemon meringue pie, it was so good that she forgot all about being angry. And so they decided, since she made such good lemon meringue pie, that they were going to keep her. Of course, that means you have to eat a lot of lemon meringue pie, doesn't it? But also, Mr. Rogers changed a couple of things and remembered to tell her to undust the furniture, and then they would get done with what they unlight the lights and to close the drapes, and then she'd be able to accomplish what it was that they wanted her to do, right? So I'm going to actually return that book and see now where it's going to take us. So this is the site that I found it on. It's a Internet Archive digital library. And I will take this and I'll put it into our, but there's all different kinds of books, and I can put Amelia Bedelia back in here. Oh, Amelia Bedelia Goes Camping. Let's just see what they have for other books. Okay, good work. Amelia Bedelia, Rocket Science. Teach us, Amelia Bedelia. That's when she becomes a teacher and goes to school. Did you like the Amelia Bedelia book? Grace, you're frozen. Did you enjoy Amelia Bedelia?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Do you want to read another one? Would you like to read another one and see? What about maybe
Yeah.
Good Work, Amelia Bedelia?
Because it's.
Should we try that one and see? Or we could try Teach Us, Amelia Bedelia. Which one do you think? Let's try, maybe we'll try Teach Us, Amelia Bedelia, and see what she's going to teach us. Okay, she's in school. And when I hit this, I'm going to end up borrowing the book.
Sorry.
Okay, so I just borrowed the book from that library. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
All right. Well, I haven't read this one myself, Amelia, Teach Us, Amelia Bedelia. So this will be a new one for me too. But let's see if we can pull out the, oh, it's a back feed. If we can pull out the funny things that she says here. So you're going to want to mute again because I'm getting feedback from you, and we'll read this story. Do you want to read with me? Hey, well, you're freezing a lot, so let's just see. Oh, this is a preview. Okay, it may not be the whole book. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, forget that. We don't. Oh, yeah, we can borrow that book. Okay, so I have 13 days. That's fine. So she wrote this for Miss Rose, her first grade teacher who introduced me to the magic of words with love. Oh, that's nice that she writes it for a teacher. The telephone was ringing. I'm coming, said Amelia Bedelia. She answered the telephone. Mrs. Rogers, she said, where are you? I'm at the airport in Pinewood, said Mrs. Rogers. You didn't tell me you were going away, said Amelia Bedelia. I'm not, said Mrs. Rogers. I'm meeting the new teacher, but her plane is late. That's too bad, said Amelia Bedelia. The telephone at the school is out of order, said Mrs. Rogers. Mrs. Rogers went on. Please go to Mr. Carter's office at the school. Tell him what I said. I'll go right now, said Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia got her things. She walked to school. "Where is Mr. Carter's office?" she asked. "The first door," said a child. Amelia Bedelia walked in. "Mrs. Rogers tried to call you," she said, "but your telephone is out of order." "I know," said Mr. Carter, "but thank goodness you're here. The children are going wild. Miss Lane left a list for today. I'll take you to the room." He handed Amelia Bedelia the list. Right there, you can probably say in your mind, uh-oh. "Follow me," he said. They went down the hall. Mr. Carter opened a door. Children were all over the place. "All right," said Mr. Carter. "Quiet, this is your new teacher." "Me? Teach?" said Amelia Bedelia, but Mr. Carter was gone. She looked at the children, and they looked at her. "I'm Amelia Bedelia," she said. The children giggled. "You're nice," said Amelia Bedelia. "I do like happy children, but we have a lot to do." She held up the list. "We must do just what this says," she said. "Now, what's first?" Amelia Bedelia read, "Call the roll." She looked puzzled. "Call the roll? What roll?" she said. "Does anybody have a roll?" "I have," said Peter. "Oh, do get it," said Amelia Bedelia. Peter opened his lunchbox. "Here it is," he said. "Now I have to call it," said Amelia Bedelia. "Roll! Hey, roll!" "All right, that takes care of that." The children roared. Of course, roared means laughing very loudly, to roar. And when you're supposed to be calling the roll, it means make sure all the kids are in attendance, so you're calling their names. And she called the roll. Isn't that funny? Sitting there on the floor. Amelia Bedelia read her list. "Land sakes," she said, "listen to this. Sing a song. I never was much of a hand at singing, but it says sing a song, so I'll sing." And she did. "More, more," shouted the children. "No," said Amelia Bedelia. "It said a song. I did just that." "Ah," said the children, because a song means one song, and that's what the list said, so she can't sing two or more songs. "Now it's reading time," said Amelia Bedelia. "I know about that. I read my cookbook. It tells me just what to do." She held up a book. She said, "Is this the right one?" "Yes," said Amanda. Amelia Bedelia opened the book. "I declare," she said, "this is a good one. Are you ready?" "Yes," said the children. "All right," said Amelia Bedelia. "It says, run, run, run." The children just sat. Amelia Bedelia clapped her hands. "Run," she said. "Run, run, run." Amelia Bedelia ran. The children ran after her. Around the room, through the halls, around the block they ran. Finally, they ran back into the room. Amelia Bedelia plopped on her chair. "That takes care of run, run, run," she said. "Your book plumb tired me out. So let's see what's next. I hope we don't have to run to do it." She looked at the list. She said, "It says science time. Each of you should plant a bulb. Do you know about that?" "Yes," said Tim. We brought our pots." "Where are the bulbs?" said Amelia Bedelia. "In the top closet," said Rebecca. "Miss Lane said so." Amelia Bedelia looked and looked. "Nothing here but some dried up onions," she said. "You all go outside. Put some soil in your pots. I'll go buy some bulbs." Amelia Bedelia went to the store and she hurried back. The children were waiting. Here's a bulb for you and you, said Amelia Bedelia. She gave everybody a bulb. The children looked surprised. Then they started giggling. Probably wanted those dried up onions instead of the light bulb. But they planted those bulbs. They put the pots on the windowsill. Those do look right pretty, said Amelia Bedelia. And I learned something new. I didn't know you could plant bulbs. Suddenly a bell rang. What's that for? Said Amelia Bedelia. Free time, yelled the children. Oh, good, said Amelia Bedelia. The children ran outside. Amelia Bedelia sat down to rest. Then free time ended. Back came the children. It's quiet time now, said Amelia Bedelia. You're supposed to read stories. Each child chose a book. All was quiet. Why aren't you reading, said Amelia Bedelia. We are, said Ed. I don't hear you, said Amelia Bedelia. The children looked at Amelia Bedelia, and they looked at each other. And Amelia Bedelia heard them all right. My, I'm glad when quiet time is over, she said. My ears hurt. All of them reading at the same time aloud. And Jeff said, art comes next. That's fun. Amelia Bedelia looked at her list. You're right, she said. You must paint pictures now. The children got sheets of art paper. What are you doing? Said Amelia Bedelia. We're going to paint pictures, said Bud. But how can you? Said Amelia Bedelia. There's no pictures there to paint. We'll make pictures, said Mary. Oh no, said Amelia Bedelia. This says to paint pictures. You can't paint a picture without a picture to paint. Better find one for yourselves. The children ran around the room. Not a picture was left on the wall, but all the children were painting. Soon the pictures were back on the wall. They sure look different, said Steve. Yes, said Amelia Bedelia. Mr. Carter will be surprised. The children shook their heads. He sure will, said Janet. What's next? Said Jamie. Our play, said Rebecca. We have to practice our play. Practice play? Said Amelia Bedelia. You mean children have to practice play? School sure has changed since I went. All right, out you go. But Amelia Bedelia, said the children. No buts, said Amelia Bedelia. Let's go, start playing. Practice that jumping rope some more, said Amelia Bedelia. I can do better than that. Show us, said Janet, and Amelia Bedelia did. I can run faster than that, said Amelia Bedelia. Show us, said Steve. So Amelia Bedelia did. That's fine, she said. You've practiced long enough. Let's go inside. Let me see what's next, said Amelia Bedelia. Here are some problems for you. Yuck, said the children. Ginny, get your apples, said Amelia Bedelia. What apples? Said Ginny. Amelia Bedelia looked puzzled. She said, but it says Ginny has 4 apples. Paul takes away 2. Oops, said Amelia Bedelia. I don't think I was supposed to tell that part. She read the other problem. These all have apples in them, she said. Does anybody have apples? The children shook their heads. Then Amelia Bedelia had an idea. Let's go to my house, she said. We have lots of apples. Yes, shouted the children. We better leave a note, said Amelia Bedelia. She went to the blackboard and wrote, We are at the Rogers house. Then off they went to the Rogers backyard. Amelia Bedelia got the apples. She called some children. There is a problem for each of you, she said. You all have apples. Somebody is going to try to take some away. Are you going to let them? No, shouted the children. Amelia Bedelia went to the other children. You are supposed to take away some of their apples, she said. She told each child whom to take from. Can you do that? She said. Sure, said the children. All right, everybody, said Amelia Bedelia. Go. The children started after each other. They ran all over the yard. Amelia Bedelia turned and went into the kitchen. She put some of this and a lot of that into a big pot. She put the pot on the stove. There, she said, I'll surprise them. Amelia Bedelia started out. Just then, Mr. Rogers started in. What is all this? Said Mr. Rogers. What are those children doing? Math, said Amelia Bedelia. Math, said Mr. Rogers. Come and see, said Amelia Bedelia. They went out. That's not fair, Steve, yelled Janet. You hid your apples. I can't take any. That's not fair, Judy, shouted Andy. You took away all my apples. What in tarnation are they doing? Said Mr. Rogers. Amelia Bedelia read him the problem. That sounds like fun. I'm going to help them, he said. He joined the children. Now that does beat all, said Amelia Bedelia. She went inside. Later she called, everybody come, all apples on the table. Apples came from everywhere. Amelia Bedelia put a stick in each one. Then she dipped them into the pot. Taffy apples, everybody shouted. Right, said Amelia Bedelia. Take one and go home. School is out. The children grabbed apples. They crowded around Amelia Bedelia. Please, please teach us again, each one said. Amelia Bedelia said nothing. She looked at her kitchen and she shook her head. Mrs. Rogers walked in. Someone was with her. What happened? She said. Where are the children? Home, said Amelia Bedelia. Home, said Mrs. Rogers. But it's not time. It was for me, said Amelia Bedelia. This is Miss Reed, said Mrs. Rogers. She is the new teacher. She came to get the children. Then she'll have to find them, said Amelia Bedelia. I'm plumb tired out. But, said Mrs. Reed. More taffy apples, called Mr. Rogers. Taffy apples, said Mr. Rogers. Come on, Miss Reed. Amelia Bedelia put the taffy apples on the table. They sat down to eat. I'll let you teach any time, said Miss Reed, if you will make taffy apples. Be glad to, said Amelia Bedelia. I do love those children. So in school, they learned how to do things differently, didn't they? A little bit outside the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one of those things in school would you have enjoyed doing the most if Amelia Bedelia came in to teach you?
I always love working in school gardens and taking part in intercurricular activities in school.
Okay. So you would like what, the outdoor play or the mathematics of trying to keep your apples and take apples away? Which one would you think would be the most fun for you to do if you were a kid?
Uh, I I love the outdoor play.
The outdoors. Yeah. Yeah. Which story did you enjoy the most? The first one or the second one?
I enjoyed the second one because I followed it very well more than the first one.
You followed the second one
Yeah.
better than the first one. Why do you think that was?
Because after the first one, I already had a clue about Amelia Bedelia, and knowing that she tries to do something, she understands contrary, yes, to what she's being said to do.
Do you
Yeah.
think that she's being contrary?
Especially when she said,
Do you think she's being contrary on purpose?
no, no, no.
No? How do you know? How do you know that she's not doing that on purpose?
Because she obeys it and she does what she's been asked to do. Maybe the surface meaning she does not get it well. She gives her own interpretation and executes what she's asked to do.
Right, right. So just that it is her interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a phrase or somebody has said something to you and you didn't understand it or it didn't make sense to you in the way the English was being used? Have you ever had that
Yeah,
happen? Yeah? Yeah.
a lot
Will
of
you-
times.
Well, a lot of times. Will you share
Yeah.
that? Will you share a time?
Yeah. I first of all back in Cameroon with my mom. At times she will send me and say, Grace, go get me this from the store. And when I go to the store, that's a small supermarket, I go get something else and I'm rushing home happily and say, Mom, this is what you asked me to get. She said, but no, I said something else and you went and got something else. Go and refund it back and take what I asked you to take. I'm like, no, I can't go for the second time. I'm in problem. So, yeah.
So when you got whatever it was that you got at the store, was it something that you got because it was something you wanted, or you forgot what mom had asked you to get, or just misunderstood her, or what was it that you got the wrong thing at the store?
Well, at some point in time, I misunderstood her. At some point in time, she will say it. I will keep on singing. Like if she asks me, Grace, go buy bread and chocolate. I'll say bread, chocolate, bread, chocolate. You can eat bread and butter. So I'll get bread and butter.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you get a chance to think back about some other times, you know, that you misunderstood what they wanted, you are an excellent artist. Would you do us a picture
A picture
of one of the things that you misunderstood? If you remember, you know, the pictures in Amelia Bedelia, one of them of her dusting all the furniture, another one of her dressing the chickens. Okay, take one of the things that you misunderstood and try and illustrate what it was for us. What you think?
hey,
Because you do great artwork. I love your art stuff.
super.
Okay, okay. Now, that's that
Thank
ends
you.
that that ends our reading of Amelia Bedelia today.